Happy Saturday. It is Saturday, right? Hi, Bill. Good to see you. Or see you type. Okay, so how's everybody been? It has been apparently a whole, oh boy, sec, please. One second. Hi. One second. Thanks, Ray. Come on, man. He said, whoa, Azuma. Hey, now that was a little harsh, Bill. Loomer? Oh, no. No, no. No, sir. There can be none of that. Was a little bit too up close and personal for me. So happy Saturday, guys. Everybody's having a good day. I'm happy I'm back. Tonight, we're going to look at the new motion filed by Tyler Robinson's defense. Motion for an order to show cause for contempt of court by the Utah County Attorney Jeffrey Gray and Deputy County Attorney Chris Ballard, and for an order compelling the Utah County Attorney's Office to produce discovery related to the contemptuous conduct. We're also getting into the arrest and charge of singer-artist David Burke for murder and the prolonged abuse on the 14-year-old girl, and much more. One thing is for certain, there is no shortage of things that need to be covered. From the shit show we call our government to the missing scientists, all the lies and the cover-up to cover up their own asses. I'm at a point, I don't understand why everyone isn't standing up demanding the 25th Amendment be enacted on Trump. It is so very clear he is the only one, he's only creating immense financial ruin on our country and others by proxy of his poor decisions. It is clear to me, and no doubt everyone else with a functioning brain, that it's real is dictating and in control of our president and our country. Wars, the loss of innocent lives, suffering of innocent people, scientists going missing, being unalive, Charlie Kirk assassination, false flags everywhere to attempt to keep us in a state of fear. And when they see that is no longer working, they ramp up the efforts. All for what? Their sick control. Or the secrets they will do anything to keep from coming out. So BB doesn't see a day in jail. When do Americans stand up and take our country back before it's too late? They have lied to us, indoctrinated us since forever, instilled fear to control us, allowed vaccines to be put in our children that they knew were harmful. The list goes on and on. We, at this point, I believe, are the only ones that are going to be able to stop this. If we have to take a stand and fight against being lied to, people being killed, the destruction of our country. It starts with us, guys. I'm so sick of every time you look at the news, something bigger and nastier has happened. Our kids being abused and killed, trafficked, innocent people, scientists finding or figuring out this, and they come up missing or unalived to keep them quiet. I'm going to cover the David Burke case as well, and that's just starting, and it's a yucky one. And then there's actually the little girl that was kidnapped by the FedEx driver that I'm not going to get into tonight, but we're going to cover that too. I do have the charges, the charging document for David Burke. And he was abusing her for a long period of time, charged with killing a witness, which was Celeste, because she was going to tell the ridiculous lengths the government and TPSA going a lie is falling apart, pretending all is good out here, trying to make people believe Tyler Robinson is guilty. At what point do they realize the mind games and manipulation is over for them? When is anyone going to be held accountable for the loss of Charlie's life, the havoc it has created on everyone and in this country? There is no left or right. This was all created to divide us and keep control over us. Oh, with that, we are going to start with, yes, that is better, Zuma Luma. I can take that. Zuma Luma's cool. We're going to start with the new filing. Boom. Look, it worked. Just assumed it was going to be one of them days. Somebody yell at me if my camera zooms in that like that craziness. Yay. So, taken. This was filed like 2 days ago. 2 days ago. Bad, I forgot to look at the date. And it was just within the last couple days. So, defendant Tyler James Robinson, by and through his counsel of record, hereby moves the Honorable Court to the issue and ordering, directing Utah County Attorney Jeffrey S. Gray and Deputy County Attorney Chris Ballard to show cause why they should not be held in civil contempt pursuant to Utah Code. Blah, blah, blah. The longstanding common law principles of violation of the court's pretrial and trial publicity order dated September 16, 2025, as amended on December 15, 2025. And of course, they have exhibits, which is in here too. Mr. Robinson also moves this court to compel the Utah County Attorney's Office, pursuant to Rule 16 of the Utah Rules Criminal Procedure Court's inherent supervisory powers, to produce documents and information related to the contemptuous conduct, and Mr. Robinson's has already requested by way of request for discovery on April 3rd, 2026, Exhibit B, which we have, and which the Utah County Attorney's Office thereafter declined to produce. As explained in more detail below, on March 27, 2026, Mr. Robinson timely filed the motion to vacate or continue the preliminary hearing pending discovery to permit continually adequate and reasonable time for preparation. Just days later, the Utah County's office, under the leadership of Mr. Gray, by using Mr. Ballard as its oracle, deliberately made statements to numerous media entities, both in writing and through interviews, which clearly violate the pretrial publicity order, as well as Rule 3.6 of Utah Rules of Professional Conduct. These public statements concern both the contents of expert reports and Utah County Attorney's Office opinion as to the guilt of Mr. Robinson. In light of the refusal of the Utah County Attorney's Office to voluntarily disclose the documents and information requested by Mr. Robinson, which relate directly to the contemptuous conduct, Mr. Robinson reserves identification of the precise remedies he seeks until the conclusion of the proposed show cause hearing that is required by the Utah Code. It is well established under Utah law, however, that the sanctions which the court may impose after finding a civil contempt include inter alia, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, the remedial purpose of compensating an aggrieved party for injuries resulting from the failure to comply with an order. The motion is based on the court's pretrial publicity order, Rule 3.6, Utah Rules Professional Conduct, which we all know about very well and have been kind of running all over TPUSA and Blake Neff and all the rest of them that seem to not be able to keep their mouth shut and are continuously on X or other social media inferring, not well, outright saying that he is guilty. The pretrial and public, or I'm sorry, the pretrial and trial publicity order on September 22nd, 2025, the court issued the order governing the conduct of the lawyers participating in the criminal case. The order is the title protection order pretrial publicity. Order directs that the lawyers who have participated, who are now participating, or who will yet participate in the investigation or litigation of this case in any way must strictly comply with the provisions of the Utah Code. The order cites language from Rule 3.6 and prohibits a lawyer from making an extrajudicial statement that the lawyer knows or reasonably should know will be disseminated by means of public communication and will have a substantial likelihood of materially prejudicing or adjudicate proceeding in the matter. I will say, after reading this and all the other recently filed motions, any doubt that I had for his defense is gone. I think they are definitely fighting for him. So we got A, the performance of results of any examination or test, or the identity or nature of physical evidence expected to be presented. Any opinion as to guilt or innocence of the defendant or suspect in a criminal case or proceeding that could result in incarceration. The fact that the defendant has been charged with a crime, unless there is included therein a statement explaining that the charge is merely an accusation and that the defendant is presumed innocent until and unless proven guilty. The pretrial publicity order also incorporates language from Utah School of Professional Conduct, special responsibilities of a prosecutor requiring lawyers to not intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly permit a witness, investigator, or consultant, staff member, or other member of the prosecution or defense team to make extrajudicial statements which, if made by the lawyer, would violate Rule 3.6. November 6, 2025, the state filed a motion to amend or clarify the court's pretrial publicity order seeking modification for the court's pretrial publicity. The motion was signed by Christopher Ballard. The court granted the state's motion to clarify and clarified the duties of counsel, informing witnesses that they may or that they should not make statements prohibited by Rule 3.6. So it makes me wonder if they will then file a motion for all the social media that is being put out there by people that we know definitively were there and should be called as witnesses. The Utah County Attorney's Office is fully aware of their ethical obligations under Utah Rules of Professional Conduct, demonstrated by the emails sent by members of the prosecution team to law enforcement and other agencies before charges were filed against Mr. Robinson. In these letters to the law enforcement and other agencies, UCAO emphasized, do not make comments on his character or your belief of his guilt. These letters also list the categories of prohibited statements under Rule 3.6, Mr. Robinson's right to a fair trial. Mr. Robinson's motion to vacate or continue the preliminary hearing on March 27, 2026, Mr. Robinson filed a motion to vacate, continue the preliminary hearing. Detailing why good cause exists to continue to vacate the preliminary hearing, Mr. Robinson referenced forensic testing by the ATF that he may seek introduce at the preliminary hearing. The motion was filed as a public document. Mr. Robinson did not request that the motion to continue be filed privately in light of the court's ruling and orders and classification and closure motions. Therein, the court denied Mr. Robinson earlier motion to classify as private. A related motion filed January 9th, the ATF report at issue in Mr. Robinson's January 2026 motion is the same report cited in his recent motion to continue. The defense's earlier and continued but opposed and rejected concern with this filing inconclusive report publicly was that doing so would be in effect an improper end runaround, which that's exactly what happened and what it's doing. Everybody's now a professional and expert in it. Obviously, neither the state nor the court agreed with that concern. The state objected to classifying the January 9th motion and the evidence as a private doc. This was despite the state's earlier email avoiding a public filing regarding the same evidence for the same reason. Facts supporting Mr. Gray and Mr. Ballard's contemptuous violation of pretrial publicity order. March 31st, 2026, online news entity TMZ published an article entitled Charlie Kirk Murder Suspect, Prosecutors Slam His Claims Bullet Doesn't Match. Attorney Christopher Ballard, which is the prosecutor, tells us generally when a bullet fragment analysis comes back as inconclusive, that means the fragment did not contain enough detail for the examiner to say one way or the other. There's just not enough there to determine whether the bullet was fired by a particular firearm. We have ample evidence to demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that Tyler Robinson committed this murder, and will present some of that evidence at the upcoming preliminary hearing. And then we will present all the evidence at trial. You were sleeping, weren't you? The article further quotes Mr. Ballard. He told us, can't speak about specific evidence after having said all that. But the evidence that detailed in the charging document is general summary of the evidence that shows Tyler Robinson committed this crime. Finally, TMZ states, Ballard added, he is presumed innocent. The ultimate decision will be up to the jury. We believe we will be able to overcome his presumption of innocence. So nothing like contradicting your fix to condemning him in the court of law as you're a prosecutor. Like, he has no rights. Also, on March 31st, USA Today reported communications with Christopher Ballard. And Christopher Ballard is also the one that they tried to get recused because his daughter was at the event. I'm saying that. It's not in the document here. When asked about the defense characterization of the ATF report, Christopher Ballard, a spokesperson of the Utah County Attorney's Office, told USA Today ethical rules prohibit him from speaking publicly about forensic testing and test results. But I can say generally that when the results of a bullet fragment analysis come back inconclusive, that means that the fragment did not contain enough detail for the examiner to determine whether the characteristics on the fragment were consistent with having been fired by particular firearm, Ballard said. Ballard confirmed the FBI and ATF are adding information to the initial reports. Convenient. Which prosecutors expect will include data supporting the initial conclusions. Which is what? Nothing. As soon as the state receives those supplemental reports, we will provide them to the defense, he said. So then they are citing all the different places that I do believe this is Stacey Visser that is very diligent on watching the prosecutor's conduct, because they have found just about every single article or anything these people say. So he was on Fox News. He was up here on USA Today on April 2nd. PolitiFact published an article online quoting from the email sent by Mr. Ballard to the media entity, stating the exact same thing about the same exact wording. When the results of the bullet fragment analysis come back as inconclusive, same bullshit. And then the PolitiFact article cites the following as a source for the article: email exchange, Christopher Ballard, spokesperson for the Utah County Attorney's Office, April 1st, 2026. Mr. Ballard's statements to the media outlets spread to other media outlets without any inclusion of any statement regarding Mr. Robinson's presumption of innocence, the Standard wrote. State prosecutor Christopher Ballard told TMZ that the apparent evidence gap was not an issue. Generally, when a bullet fragment analysis comes back as inconclusive, that means the fragment did not contain enough detail to the examiner. We have the ample evidence, blah, blah, blah. Big Mouth Ballard. That's what we're going to call him, Big Mouth Ballard. I don't care if he likes it or not. Not dismissing it, it was just filed. Immediately upon discovering the Utah Attorney's Office has been communicating about the evidence in the case and its opinions about Mr. Robinson's guilt with the media, Mr. Robinson requested discovery of documents and information directly related to these public statements and how the decision was made to engage in this contemptuous public relations campaign. And then it talks about the exhibits. It is clear that the UCAO is making public statements about forensic testing conducted in a case. It is also beyond dispute that the UCAO is offering its opinion as to Mr. Robinson's guilt, declaring that the state has ample evidence to demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that Tyler Robinson committed this murder, is functional equivalent to stating Mr. Robinson is guilty. You got the memorandum, which is the case law. I'm not going to read that because I will have no voice. Got more of the case law. And we have the elements. Contempt, where the contemptuous conduct in the violation of the courts in joining certain conduct as to the acts of omissions which may constitute contempt. The common law generally sets forth 3 elements which must be proven. The person cited for the contempt knew what was required, and the person had the ability to comply, and the person intentionally failed or refused to do so. Feel like they met that burden. Feel like there shouldn't even be a hearing. However, the third intentionality element may not be necessary to finding a civil contempt, where the contemptuous conduct is here a violation of an order enjoining certain conduct. Utah courts have long recognized that civil contempt for violation of a court order or injunction requires no intent, and it cites cases. The absence of willfulness does not relieve from civil contempt. Civil, as distinguished from the criminal contempt, is a sanction to enforce compliance with an order of the court to compensate for loss or damages sustained by reason of non-compliance. Since the purpose is remedial, it matters not with what intent the defendant did the prohibited act. And then we have more case law, which I think they've proven all the elements. But this is just stating different cases where all the Utah code and rules. So this should compel the state attorney office to produce the documents and information sought in Mr. Robinson's discovery request. After learning of Mr. Ballard's recent and contemptuous media tour, Mr. Robinson informally sought the Utah County Attorney's Office documents and information which would disclose the scope of the office's recent contacts with the media entities, copies of the communications with those entities, and the internal communications about those contacts. The Utah County Attorney's Office quickly dispatched their objection. Notwithstanding the objection, the documents and information Mr. Robinson seeks are discoverable both pursuant to the Rule 16.4 in connection with contempt hearing required by Utah Code. Moreover, the rules of professional responsibility require more. Rule 16.4 provides that the prosecutor must disclose any other item of evidence which the court determines on good cause shown should be made available to the defendant and for the defendant adequately prepared for defense. And it goes on with more Utah code. In their conclusion, after seeking and obtaining clarification of the court's pretrial and trial publicity order, the Utah County Attorney's Office has clearly violated those provisions which are designed to protect Mr. Robinson's right to a fair trial. There can be no dispute that the Utah County Attorney's Office, including both Mr. Gray and Mr. Ballard, were well aware of the conduct and the statements which the order enjoins, and that there is no legitimate limitation on their ability to comply with it. While a finding of intentionality is not necessary here, the decision to engage in media interviews and to send written statements to the press demonstrates a willfulness of the violations. This court should issue an order to show cause, should order the disclosures sought by Mr. Robinson, and should promptly schedule a hearing pursuant to Utah code. Once the scale of the contemptuous conduct is more fully understood, the propriety of alternative sanctions and remedies will be better understood. Respectfully submitted on the 15th day of April. Certificate of service, and this is the exhibits so promised. So the protection order lawyers who have participated, who are now participating, or will yet participate, and it's the same wording of shut your fat mouths that they couldn't handle. Lawyers who have participated, who are now participating, will protect. I don't know how they say it over and over again. Like, they should be able to say this in their sleep. A witness, an investigator, consultant, staff member, or any member of the prosecution or defense team to make extrajudicial statements, which is made by the lawyer, would violate Rule 3.6. So, yeah, Mr. Ballard and Mr. Gray, you're out of line. And this is them bringing up the actual order when the judge put it into effect. And as you see there, certificate of notification, Christopher Ballard. Stacy and his defense team. So yeah, there's no excuse. Not that I thought there was one. So this is asking more, again, for discovery that they have yet to get. And, you know, to be able to maybe view the firearm that is not even, I don't even think that the prosecutors have seen the firearm. So Mr. Robinson requests the UCAO provide the following documents and information: true and correct copies of all written statements by or on behalf of any representative of the UCAO and media entity. So again, asking for what they already have, because they clearly have all of the proof that they need. True and correct copies of all UCAO written or otherwise memorialized internal communications discussing the potential or actual content of communications between UCAO and the media entities concerning this case in a time period referenced above. And again, respectfully submitted. Certificate of service. And here you have the state of Utah applied through its counsel, Chad Gruender. And actually, that's the dude that his daughter was there. It's got the defendant's discovery request. Defendant requests copies of written statements between the Utah County Attorney's Office and the media related, in this case, between March 26, 26 and April 10th, 26. Second, defendant requests a list of all UCAO written in person and virtual and telephonic contacts with the media entities during the same time frame, the approximate times of contacts. And of course, state's objection to the defendant's request. Rule 16, material or information directly related to the case of which the prosecution team has knowledge or control, written record, recorded statements, defendant and other co-defendants. So they're basically saying, no, I don't have to. We're not going to. And his defense team has took it up a notch. You're not going to provide it, then we're going to show where you're breaking the rules with your big fat mouth. And they're citing other cases that this is prosecutorial misconduct. Ouch. That doesn't sound good for them. This is, again, it's just citing other cases. In fact, I think the whole rest of this is just citing the other cases. It is. And let's go to the other one. This one was filed by Stacey Visser by herself, which is part of his defense team, and it's gonna basically say all the same thing that I just read to you. Only Stacey is a ninja, and Stacey actually went through and found every single thing that they're saying is misconduct. And she put links to all of it. So 40-minute press conference on PBS. UCAO has accused the abundance of information discussed in this order, other statements by government officials with the filing of an overlay detailed in an extensive probable cause statement that gave no regard to the ethical duties to which all Utah attorneys are bound. Recent events demonstrate that unless this court intervenes, the UCAO will continue to make public statements in violation of both ethical duties and the court's orders. And it goes over the order on September the 22nd and the protection order again. Again, this is just one of the 4 attorneys on his defense. She filed on her own. Talking about the pretrial publicity order. The Utah Attorney's Office is fully aware of their ethical obligations under the Utah Rules of Professional Conduct 3.6 and 3.8, as just demonstrated by the emails sent by members to the prosecution team, to law enforcement, and other agencies before charges were filed against Mr. Robinson. And then she goes on about the preliminary hearing. She gives the facts supporting violation of the pretrial publicity order. And again, it's the TMZ where Big Mouth Ballard does a view of generally when a bullet fragment analysis comes back as inconclusive, all that bullshit. When asked about the defense characterization of the ATF report, Ballard, a spokesperson of the Utah County office, told USA Today ethical rules prohibit him from speaking publicly about forensic testing. But I can say generally that when the results of a bullet fragment analysis came back as inconclusive, that means only that the fragment did not contain enough detail. Guys, just let us have a minute to breathe so that we can get it back to the ATF and they can get it to the FBI and fix this for us. Really what they're trying to do. And she goes on to cite and show all communication. There's Christopher Ballard, Big Mouth Ballard on Fox and Friends, saying the exact same thing. Got an email exchange between Christopher Ballard, spokesperson for Utah County. Mr. Ballard's statements to the media outlets spread to other media outlets without any inclusion of any statement regarding Mr. Robson's presumption of innocence. Standard wrote. We all read this already. So the UCAO objected to the request for discovery on April 10th. It is apparent from what is known that the UCAO is making public statements about the forensic testing conducted in the case. These statements were not made in response to a public statement made by the defense, because the defense has made no public statements. It is also apparent from these statements that the UCAO is offering its opinion as to Mr. Robinson's guilt, declaring that the state has ample evidence to demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that Tyler Robinson committed this murder. Is the functional equivalent of stating that Mr. Robinson is guilty. At no point have any of Mr. Robinson's counsel or anyone on the defense team made any public statements about the facts, evidence, litigation, prosecutors, victim's family, or anything else in this case. The courts will search in vain to find any public statements made by the defense attorneys in this matter ever. And then she goes on to show to Christopher Ballard, shut your pie hole, my guy. Asking again, you can see they were all emailed. All of them. 9/12/25. They all got the same email. Shut your mouths. And this is the notice of intent to conduct a non-destructive testing of the bullet jacket fragment and lead fragments. I am not filing this with the court because I don't want it public, or to have a file, or to file a motion to have it classified as non-public. My reasoning for the proceeding this way is that the comment to Rule 3.6 Utah of the professional responsibility list the performance of results of any examination or test and the identity or nature of the physical evidence expected to be presented as subjects to avoid in public comments. I will, however, file a certificate of service with the court. Hopefully this is a matter we can handle without needing to involve the court. Not likely. There you have where she has found not only the links, but the actual videos. Does the mullet match? Key issue emerges. I mean, it just sent everybody in a spiral of big hissy and fight. It does, it doesn't. It doesn't mean anything. Got TPUSA on there saying all kinds of crazy shit. It's just them all yapping about the inconclusive report and the mountain of evidence that they say they have, but don't have possession of. And then it's got how holistic examination works. So we got Daily Mail, CNN, USA Today, email interview, Stephanie Wolcott. I mean, they just can't shut up. They just got to talk and interview. And in a death penalty case, well, they make no folding Mauser. They made a the folding AR or whatever conveniently. Imagine. She just so happens, Erica allegedly happens, well, no, she does know, dude that made the patent for the folding AR. Can't make the shit up. Can't make it up. I'm gonna go to next. So I went to Phoenix, and when I got there, I found that, well, I went to TPUSA, and I found that TPUSA now is completely covered the entire compound, and it's quite large. 6 buildings. Massive. With a wrought iron gate completely surrounding it. It was never there before. It's new. I know it's new because there was other people out there that stopped somebody from coming out and asked. It's definitely new. Gotta have a badge or key fob to get in. Well, on the front of the gate that opens for cars to go through, I noticed that it said the Buckman campus, which if you watched any of my other shows, you know that the Buckmans are tied to Jocko Boyan and all the other sex trafficking, saving peoples. And I've actually learned quite a bit about the Buckmans, and I've actually done a lot of videos about it, but just to remind you, that is Carl and Nelda Buckman that I actually showed you they live in Texas, and they have 3 homes already outside of the one in Nevada that it's actually already up and running. 2 in Texas that were purchased for cash at the end of August, beginning of September. $5 million something for one. Right at $3 million I showed for the other one. And they have one in Idaho. All paid in cash, all around the time that Charlie was killed. And that is not in dispute. Sorry, Buckmans, it's not. And then their name is on the front of the TPUSA gate. I found that interesting. And then, while searching the Buckmans months ago, I come across Brad Buckman, which is Carl Buckman's brother, and I've showed you him too. He is director of sales at the Crazy Mountain Ranch in Montana. I mean, what's with ranches, man? These people have lots of ranches. This is Crazy Mountain Ranch. It is the 18,000 extraordinary acre state of Montana. That it's an exclusive club. Can't just make a reservation or go there. This is where I believe they went and all gathered together right before the Tennessee plant blew up. I don't hate ranches. I don't like these ranches, Bill. Bill, again, do you have an airport on your ranch? Is your ranch exclusive? 18,000 acres. And are you tied to all these strange people? I love ranches. I just don't like ranches that are tied to all these people that happen to be tied to sex trafficked kids. So here is the one that's just opened in Nevada. And it's called Courage House. And as you see here, well, actually, I'll play it for you.
Because there are people that want to hurt them.
Survivors.
Grainger knows that as the procurement coordinator at a manufacturing plant, you can count on auto reordering to have the PPE you need on hand. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
There's a new home dedicated to helping child survivors of sex trafficking. It just opened in our community. It's called the Courage House, Nevada. I'm Kristen Remington.
I'm Ryan Canada. Courage Worldwide, the nonprofit running this house, says it'll give children the opportunity to recover from their trauma and grow up in a safe space. Michaela Hardy joins us now here in the studio after attending the ribbon cutting. Michaela.
Yeah, Ryan, this is the first treatment facility in Nevada where child survivors can live in until the age of 21. And one survivor who used to live in the Courage House in Northern California says it was the best thing to ever happen to her.
Courage House made it easy. The staff there were just meeting me where I was at. They didn't expect perfection.
Jessica Contreras, a survivor and former resident of the Courage House in Northern California, remembers the day she was welcomed with open arms.
When they come here, they each get their own bedroom. The very first thing we have to do is establish safety for them, emotional safety and physical safety. That's why we don't disclose the location, because there are people that want to hurt them.
Survivors will live in the house full-time, where they will be cared for and homeschooled. Williamson says the program offers a wide range of therapy depending on the interests and hobbies of the clients. They have music therapy, play therapy, even horses and puppies to help them bond.
Horses and puppies.
I remember Cinnamon. Anybody who...
So, yeah, horses, puppies, and Cinnamon the horse. But this is what I found interesting. And I'm not hating, maybe these people are all on the up and up. It just happens to be 150 coincidences of the weirdness. Yes, trauma. So, a new home dedicated to helping child survivors of sex trafficking has just opened in our community called Courage House, Nevada. Courage Worldwide is a nonprofit running this house, says it will give children the opportunity to recover from their trauma and grow up in a safe space. This is the treatment facility in Nevada where children survivors can live until they are 21. One survivor, Jessica, which you just heard from, says the house in California was the best thing to happen to her. Courage House has made it easy. The staff were meeting me where I was at, and I didn't expect perfection. Jenny Williamson, founder and CEO of Courage Worldwide, when they come here, they each get their own bedroom. First thing we do is establish safety for them, emotional safety, physical safety, and that's why we don't disclose the location, because there are people that want to hurt them. So their families don't know where they are. Nobody knows where they're at. Williams says the program offers a wide range of therapy depending on the interests and hobbies of the clients. They have music therapy, play therapy, even horses and puppies to help them bond. She remembers Cinnamon. Anybody who ever lived in Courage House in Northern California remembers Cinnamon. Courage House Nevada received several donations, including one of $1 million. One donor, Nelda Yaw Buckman, says she got involved with helping survivors after dealing with an unfortunate experience of her own many years ago. My former husband had a sex addiction, and that had manifested itself into the sex industry. He discovered it. It was devastating. Buckman says for a while she blamed the sex workers, but after meeting some of them and learning about their stories, trauma, she knew she needed help and has been doing so ever since. And then if you remember Jocko Boyan's big story on why he got into it, well, his sister was trafficked for, 6 years or whatever he claims. And his sister just so happens to be a worker at TPUSA. So yeah, that is the Courage House, and owned by the Buckmans, which, they got their names on the gate. It is the Buckman campus. Yeah. Whole ass campus dedicated to him. Thank you, Erica Kirk. And then this is our Mr. and Mrs. Buckman here and their other charity foundation that they run. So they are in the role of creativity and innovation, design, problem solving, and human experience. The Buckmans' early grassroots efforts began with providing creative opportunities for the community from funding arts programs in low income school districts in Texas. And guess what area of Texas they're from? Can you guess it, Bill? I've showed you. They're in New Brunsville, along with every other person that seems to be associated with anything that has to do with this case. Dan Flood, Rick, the Buckmans. That's Nelda's other organization is Nelda Studios. And then I also told you Jeb Jacoby, the actor, or in my opinion, acting at UVU, like getting took out of his hand and all that good stuff. He's adopted by his grandparents, and the grandparents are none other than helping children trafficked. Again, can't make it up. They have a serious obsession with kids. And we have, what else do we want to get on here? We are going to go ahead and shoot over to this new guy. So if you haven't heard this case yet, there's just no words. So the Superior Court, the state of California for the county of Los Angeles, on or about April 23rd, 2025, in county of Los Angeles, the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187, a felony, was committed by David Anthony Burke, who did unlawfully and with malice or forethought murder Celeste R., a human being. Notice the above offense is a serious felony within the meaning of the Penal Code and violent felony within the meaning of the Penal Code. Notice upon a felony conviction of the above offense, prison custody time is to be served in state prison based upon the above felony offense being serious felony defined by the Penal Code and violent felony defined by the Penal Code, and felony offense requiring registration as a sex offender pursuant to the Penal Code within the meaning of the Penal Code. It is further alleged that the murder of Celeste was intentional and was carried out by the defendant David Anthony Burke for financial gain within the meaning of the Penal Code section. It is further alleged that pursuant to the Penal Code section that Celeste R. was a witness to a crime and was intentionally killed because of that fact. It is further alleged that the murder of Celeste was committed by the defendant David Anthony Burke and that the defendant intentionally killed the victim by means of lying in wait within the meaning of the Penal Code. It is further alleged that in the commission and attempted commission of the above offense, the said defendant David Anthony Burke personally used a deadly and dangerous weapon, to wit, sharp instrument, that used to be being the element of the above offense within the meaning of the Penal Code. On or between September 7th, 2023 and September 7th, 2024 in the county of Los Angeles, crime of continuous sexual abuse in violation of the Penal Code as a felony was committed by David Anthony Burke, who did unlawfully engage in 3 or more acts of substantial sexual conduct as defined by the Penal Code, and 3 or more lewd and lascivious acts as defined in the code, with Celeste, a child under the age of 14 years old. While the defendant resided with and had recurring access to the child, notice the above offense is a serious felony within the meaning of the penal code and a violent felony within the meaning of the penal code. Conviction of this offense will require you to register pursuant. Conviction of this, well, you have to submit to a blood test and yada yada. Being charged with a criminal offense can result in mandatory pre-conviction HIV, AIDS testing, etc. And we have here count 3 on or about May 5th, 2025 in the county of Los Angeles, a crime of unlawful mutilation of human remains in violation of Health and Safety Code section was committed by David Anthony Burke, who did willfully and unlawfully mutilate remains known to be human, specifically the remains of Celeste. On a felony conviction of the above offense, he should just be put to death in my opinion, but yeah, California. And it is the up to if convicted information. And this is just fresh. I mean, this is the only document that's out on this so far. He is in jail. He has been denied bond. And let's hop over to I will show you so this is the press conference when he was arrested. This right here is Celeste.
Good morning, everybody. We are going to give you an update on this case here in just a minute, just to give you an idea of what's going to happen here. We've got the Los Angeles County District Attorney, Nathan Hochman, and the Chief of Police, Jim McDonald, coming up, and they will be speaking to you. I will ask you when we get to any questions. There's only going to be time for just a few brief questions, so this is going to be a long Q&A afterwards. I'm going to ask you if you could do one at a time as much as possible so that we can hear the question, process it, and answer it appropriately. District Attorney Nathan Hochman.
Good morning. My name is Nathan Hochman. I'm the District Attorney of Los Angeles County. With me up here is Los Angeles Police Department Chief Jim McDonald. Also at this podium on the DA's side are the Assistant District Attorney Maria Ramirez, who oversees our special operations. We have John McKinney, who is our Director of Specialized Prosecutions. The Assistant Head Deputy District Attorney is Habib Balian of the Major Crimes Division. Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman of the Major Crimes Division will be the lead prosecutor on this case. From the Los Angeles Police Department, we also have Captain Scott Williams, who's the commanding officer of LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division, the Chief of Detectives, Alan Hamilton, the Director of Specialized Prosecutions, Mike Rimkunis, and the LAPD detectives on this case, Josh Byers and Corey Farrell. Today, I am announcing the charges against David Anthony Burke, the musician known as David, spelled D4VD, in connection with the brutal and horrific murder of Celeste, a 14-year-old at that time. These charges include the most serious charges that a DA's office can bring. That is first-degree murder with special circumstances. The special circumstances being lying in wait, committing this crime for financial gain, or murdering a witness in an investigation. These special circumstances carry with it, along with the first-degree murder charge, a maximum sentence of life without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. The determination on whether or not the district attorney's office will seek the death penalty will be made at a later time. Before I get into the actual charges, and there are additional charges against Mr. Burke, including continuous sexual acts, lewd and lascivious sexual acts with an individual under 14 years old, and mutilating a human remains of a body. Before I get into the description of these charges and their seriousness, I want to look at this as a parent. I am a parent of 3 children, and a parent's nightmare is a situation where your daughter goes out one night and never comes back. As we will show in a court of law, and what I also want to make sure about that the understanding of these charges is clear, is my description of these charges is not evidence that we are going to present in court. These charges, in fact, will not be evidence in the court. Evidence will be the witness testimony, the documents, and different types of admissible testimony that we will admit into court in the prosecution, and if it leads to the eventual trial of Mr. Burke, to convince a jury of 12 people beyond a reasonable doubt that each and every one of these charges is true, as well as the special allegations and circumstances that have been alleged. Now, back to this being a parent's nightmare.
I have a 14-year-old.
On April 23rd, 2025, as been alleged by the complaint, Celeste, a 14-year-old at that time, went to Mr. Burke's house in the Hollywood Hills. She was never heard from again. On September 8th, 2025, as alleged in the complaint, Miss Celeste's remains, her dismembered and decomposed remains, were found in 2 bags inside of a front trunk of a car registered to Mr. Burke. Thereafter began an investigation. The investigation was to determine who killed, who murdered Celeste months and months before. That investigation was carried out in unison and in partnership between the LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division and the District Attorney's Office. At every point in the investigation, through the arrest and the filing of charges, the LAPD and the District Attorney's Office have worked in lockstep. There's been no disagreements amongst these entities in deciding how to proceed with this case, ultimately leading to these charges today. So what you have as well with these charges is that, again, there are 3 sets of charges that have been brought. The first-degree murder with special circumstances, and again, those special circumstances are lying in wait. That Celeste went to Mr. Burke's home on the night of April 23rd, 2025, as alleged in the complaint, at his invitation, and again, was not heard from again. The second is a special circumstance being that this murder was committed for financial gain. As the evidence will show in court, the financial gain was for Mr. Burke to maintain his very lucrative musical career that Celeste was threatening on that particular night. The third charge, in addition to lying in wait and for financial gain, is murdering a witness to an investigation. In this particular case, as the evidence will come out in court, the witness to the investigation was Celeste. And the investigation was into the lewd and lascivious sexual acts committed by Mr. Burke that is the subject of count 2 of this complaint with Celeste while she was under 14 years old. I had the chance to meet with some of the family members of Celeste, and their grief is incalculable as to what happened to their daughter. What they have demanded, what we have assured them that the district attorney's office working with LAPD would give them is the proof beyond a reasonable doubt on who killed their daughter, on how.
He was just charged the other day. I believe it was the 18th.
Their daughter was killed, when their daughter was killed, and bring that killer to justice. That killer that we have now charged is David Anthony Burke. We will have questions after I speak and Chief McDonald speaks. At this point, I invite Chief McDonald to speak.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and thank you all for being here. I want to begin by expressing my deepest condolences to the parents of Celeste Rivas. No parent or any human being should have to endure what you've gone through. Today, alongside DA Hochman and our partners at the LA County District Attorney's Office, and thanks to the tireless and hard work of our investigators at the LAPD, we're announcing the arrest and prosecution of David Burke for the murder of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas. Throughout the 7-month investigation, this department has faced criticism for how we handled the case and for our decision not to provide details. I want to be clear about something. My duty is not to fuel speculation, it's to deliver justice, and that requires patience and discipline on everybody's part. This investigation was driven by a single purpose: to secure justice for Celeste Rivas and for those who loved her. We had to be certain that nothing we did or said would ever jeopardize this case. Ms. Rivas was a reported runaway from Riverside County. During the course of our investigation, detectives learned that she had been involved in a sexual relationship with Mr. Burke when she was a minor and he was an adult. On April 23, 2025, Ms. Rivas arrived at Mr. Burke's home in the Hollywood Hills. That's the last time she was known to be alive. On September 8, 2025, Ms. Rivas's dismembered and badly decomposed body was discovered in the front trunk of Mr. Burke's impounded Tesla. From that moment forward, our investigators faced an extraordinarily difficult and complex case. The condition of her remains delayed the medical examiner's ability to be able to determine cause of death. The substantial amount of time that passed between her death and the discovery meant that crucial evidence had degraded or disappeared. And as detectives worked to uncover the truth, they also had to sift through and debunk a great deal of false information circulating publicly. These challenges were real, and they required patience, precision, and an unwavering commitment to the facts. Despite these obstacles, and despite intense public pressure, our Robbery Homicide Division detectives remained steadfast in their duties. They recovered and analyzed a substantial amount of digital and forensic evidence. They stayed focused, disciplined, and committed to uncovering the truth. Their work, in close collaboration with the District Attorney's Office, has brought us to this moment today. I want to thank the District Attorney and his team, as always, for their partnership. This case demanded coordination, persistence, and a shared commitment to justice. Also, thank you to our media partners for showing up today and for sharing this important message with the public. And finally, to Ms. Rivas's family, we cannot undo the pain you are feeling. Our hope is that today brings some measure of accountability and a step in the journey toward healing. Please know that the Los Angeles Police Department remains fully committed to seeking justice on behalf of your daughter. Thank you.
So at this point, we'll take questions.
Anything more you can tell us about the fact that she was a witness in the pending investigation, that she reported the abuse, who was doing that?
The details of the allegations that have made, particularly with that special circumstance, will be produced in court.
Did you determine the cause of death, and the difficulty was to determine both the manner, cause, and date?
So with respect to the coroner's report, we will be seeking quite quickly to provide an order to the court that now allows the coroner to release that report to the public.
Do you believe that he acted from the BBC between the finding of the body of Celeste's body or her remains? Why has it taken so long for an arrest to be made?
I think the police chief got it right, that in a situation where you don't have an eyewitness account, or we can't point to a video that shows the killer killing someone, you have to go through the very rigorous and thorough investigation to look at all the digital and forensic evidence. You have to speak with witnesses, often who are cooperative and some who are not cooperative, in order to obtain all the information necessary to decide who did what, when, how, and what their mental state was at the time. That is what we've been doing over the last, between September 8th, roughly, and today when we bring these charges on April 20th. So again, it's a type of case that you want to make sure you get maximum information. And by the way, if there's anyone out there that has material information about this particular murder or any other actions taken by Mr. Burke, please come forward to the Los Angeles Police Department, come forward to the LA County DA's office, and report that information.
Mr. Hoffman, there are other people who are aware of this relationship. Is it possible that you will be arresting other people within his circle, and did he act alone in this death?
Again, with respect to whether or not there's any other individuals or we're going to take any other actions, you will know about them if we do, but at this point I'm not commenting.
Do you believe that you know how she was killed, beyond it being homicide? The actual cause of death?
The coroner's report will be released shortly. Because it is not currently released, I'm not going to be commenting on it.
But was it determined, not that, if you won't say what it was, but has it been determined how she was killed, beyond it being homicide?
The coroner has made a determination on how Celeste died, and at the point that the coroner's report becomes public, we'll be able to comment on it.
Was there a specific breakthrough last week? Is there physical evidence that ties David to this murder?
There is physical evidence and there is forensic and digital evidence that we intend to present in court to prove these charges beyond a reasonable doubt. Yes.
Your investigation, and just to his question, are you able to tell us exactly what the smoking gun is? And also, if you can address the issue of his visits to Santa Barbara, and that, how does it connect with the murder?
So with respect to the actual details of the evidence we're going to be presenting in court, I'm not going to do that today. As far as the concept of a smoking gun, the smoking gun is the totality of the evidence that we're going to bring to prove any case, whether it's this case or any case, beyond a reasonable doubt.
Is there any evidence that you've used other underage girls that being investigated?
An investigation is ongoing. If information comes forward on any with respect to any additional crimes, we will certainly investigate it.
One more question. One more. There's been so much discussion about the difficulties in this case. The chief talked about it as well. What makes you confident you can prove these evidence?
What makes us confident is the totality of the evidence that has been obtained by the LAPD robbery homicide, by the work that the district attorney's office has done, that has led us to the point where we believe we can prove each and every one of these three charges and the special circumstances and the special allegation beyond a reasonable doubt.
Thank you, everybody.
So this is like brand new. Like I said, this is the charging document is the only thing that's available right now. They did just release the autopsy, and Ray and I actually put in for the request of the autopsy, but I do have law and crime that already, it was just released yesterday. And I mean, there is so many questions. I mean, as far as, I mean, she was found in the trunk of his Tesla. Not to mention, she was 14. He was a grown man. I think she came from, and I don't want to be mean here because I suspect the family is suffering immensely. Maybe she was a problem child, or she came from a problem home. She seemed to run away a lot, which does not excuse anybody to take advantage of her or kill her. And he's apparently, I mean, he's popular singer. I don't know who he is. I had never heard of him, but I don't listen to that kind of music, so it's not surprising. So I don't know why it just disconnected and then reconnected, but it did. Yeah, so it's brand new, and he pled not guilty at his first hearing. And then I will go over here to the long crime, which they will break down.
Breaking news, the autopsy report for Celeste.
The autopsy, and that is Celeste right there. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And oh, that was what I was gonna say. So apparently this dude is all over social media. Ray, is it TikTok? Yes. Okay, so you can go find him. I assumed he probably has his TikTok as the D4, the number 4 BD. Yeah, music artist. And apparently well off one. I don't, and by well off, I don't mean like Cash Patel's girlfriend, but his TikTok is quite disturbing. Everything is still up. I cannot play anything from his TikTok because it would get me copyrighted left and right. All of it's music. Every video has some kind of music in it. But it's almost like he knew what he was going to do before he did it. I'll just put it that way. Y'all go check out his TikTok and see it for yourselves. Like, I guess I cannot show it on here. But we will listen to Jesse Weber and the results of the autopsy that was just released yesterday.
Rivas Hernandez in the David murder investigation has just been released. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, so thanks for joining us here on this breaking sidebar. As I mentioned right here, this is what we've been waiting for in the David investigation, in the Celeste Rivas death investigation. This is the coroner's report. So it just came in, right? So after David was arrested, after he has been charged with the death of, charged with the murder of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, this is what we've been waiting for. The cause of death. This has been sealed for months, and this is providing a lot of details. I'm going to tell you right now, it is very difficult to read through this. It is gruesome, but this is going to be a key point for both the prosecution and the defense. We know that Celeste's body, the body of this 14-year-old girl, was found in the trunk of a Tesla that was allegedly registered to David in Los Angeles back on September 8th, 2025. And again, this is going to be a key factor in this prosecution as he faces not only first-degree murder charges, because they're highlighting special circumstances here, lying in wait, financial gain, that she was a witness to a crime, but he's also facing sex crimes charges and mutilation of human remains. So I want to go through this. I want to bring on a special guest. I'm not going to do it by myself. I want to make sense of this. I'm bringing on Mary Jambelic, a former forensic pathologist and former chief medical examiner, to go through this. Mary, thank you so much for taking the time. Before we even get started into the details, I would be remiss if I didn't just start with the statement from the County of Los Angeles medical examiner. I'm going to read it verbatim. The County of Los Angeles Department of Medical Examiner determined the cause and manner of death for 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez as multiple penetrating injuries caused by objects. The manner of death is homicide. Ms. Rivas Hernandez was discovered at 1100 hours on September 8, 2025 in the front trunk of a vehicle in a tow yard in Los Angeles, and death was pronounced by a detective with the LAPD. A deputy medical examiner conducted an examination of Ms. Rivas Hernandez on September 10, 2025 at the DME's Forensic Science Center. The cause and manner of death were determined December 9, 2025. A court order initiated by the LAPD previously prevented the DME from releasing its findings. And this is the statement of Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Ode Ukpo. After several months, I am grateful this information can now be released not only to the public, but also to the grieving family enduring loss. It is unfathomable they have had to wait this long to learn what happened to their daughter. The transparency of the information contained in our findings and reports is essential for empowering the community to make informed changes, to effectively reduce fear and allowing the community to take informed action. Making the department's information publicly available is not just about accountability, it is also about social justice and prevention. By ensuring access to this information, we strengthen our ability to learn, to act, and ultimately to prevent the next tragic loss of life. I want to extend my gratitude to our partner agencies for taking the necessary step of filing an order with the court to make this disclosure possible. Mary, I'll first start there. It's not every day you hear a statement like this from a chief medical examiner. Let's start right there.
That's true. Sometimes we don't want to release the cause, the specifics about the cause of death in an active investigation, because perhaps it's information that only the killer would know. And so that's understandable that that might be obscured initially. But I think what the chief medical examiner in LA is saying is that they had this information, they wanted to release this information, and they were thwarted in
And I'm pretty certain all these pictures that they're showing is from his TikTok. So you can go on there and see his behavior and how graphic he is.
Doing so.
And when you hear, just I'm reading from it, right? So the date of the injury, they say, is unknown. The place of the injury is unknown. Pronounced date, time, September 8th, 2025, 11 a.m. Date of examination, September 10th, 2025. And it was completed, right? So December 9th, 2025. Is that time span typical?
I think from September to December, that's reasonable because they're awaiting certain specialty ancillary tests, such as toxicologic examination. And it's much harder to do on a decomposing body than if it were fresh deceased. So the fact that that takes a couple months to get that information so that that's part of the whole picture of, what happened to this poor teenager, that's reasonable.
And just to be clear, as we talk about this, David is innocent until proven guilty, and his defense attorneys have said that he did not murder Celeste, and he is not the cause of her death. So I want to go through the specifics right now. Again, it is not easy to hear this, but this is going to be an important part of the legal case. So her cause of death has been ruled multiple penetrating injuries. Her death has been classified as a homicide. I'm going to read verbatim. And by the way, they put diagrams in here as well, but 2 penetrating wounds of the torso, right abdomen with injury to liver, left chest with penetration of underlying intercostal space and cortical disruption of adjacent ribs. Other findings, bilateral dismemberment of upper and lower extremities, multiple additional skin defects. Death was pronounced at the scene. Autopsy examination was limited by extensive post-mortem changes. And by the way, this is something to keep in mind because you're talking about dismemberment and decomposition. There are 2 penetrating wounds of the torso with smooth edges that may represent sharp force injuries. The wound on the upper abdomen penetrates the liver, and the wound on the left chest penetrates one of the left intercostal spaces with disruption of the adjacent ribs' cortical surfaces. The left lung appears intact. The bilateral upper and lower extremities show full thickness dismemberment. Multiple other skin and soft tissue defects are present without apparent associated internal injuries. The etiology of these defects is not clearly apparent due to severe postmortem changes. Postmortem toxicology performed on liver tissue shows the presence of a low level of ethanol, which may be due in postmortem changes or ingestion, and does not appear to be contributory to the cause of death. Let's start right there. Mm-hmm. What does this mean, and what does this tell you, and what are there still questions about?
Well, the body sounds like it's in a state of postmortem decomposition with some loss of integrity of the skin surface and some bloating and skin slippage, etc. But despite that, the medical examiner was able to identify 2 wounds that penetrated, meaning they went into the body, significantly into the liver, which would bleed a lot, and significantly into the lung, the space around the lung, which also would cause a problem with air and blood accumulating there. And if it were a freshly deceased person, perhaps the edges of the wounds would tell you the weapon much more clearly, but it's more difficult in a decomposing body. But they are trying to generally describe the wounds and the shape without saying it's absolutely a knife that did this.
And to be clear, I'm glad you mentioned that because earlier in the week, when they talked about the charges and the special circumstances, it was very specific, a sharp instrument they claim was used. They didn't say it was a knife or an axe or something. They were just said it was kind of specific. This was something that was picked up on by TMZ. They believe defense attorneys would jump on this. There are 2 penetrating wounds of the torso with smooth edges that may represent sharp force injuries. So in other words, is there room here to suggest that it was something else?
Something that was sharp enough to penetrate skin and underlying tissue and go into the liver and then into the space around the lung. Is it, what exactly is it? That's really the question. And I don't know that they'll be able to say exactly the weapon that was used.
Is there, and I'm going to go through this more. I don't want to ask this question. I have to ask this question. Mm-hmm. Is there anything in here to indicate that she was alive at the time of dismemberment?
Not from what the medical examiner described. It sounds like classic amputating the body to try to compact it, to hide it, to dispose of it. I've seen that in a number of homicide cases. So nothing that suggests that these amputations occurred while she was alive.
When you go to other parts of the report, they talk about tattoos and they say description that she had a tattoo on the finger. This is something that we've talked about before. That seemed to be the identifier, one of the ways that they identified her as Celeste. But when you go to other parts of it, other parts of her body, including eye color, cannot assess due to severe postmortem changes. Is that decomposition? Is that dismemberment? So I guess it becomes a question, how significant is that to determine what exactly happened to her, and how much does that complicate this analysis?
Well, you know, forensic pathologists are skilled at identifying wounds and trauma in all manner of body composition. So all the way from the freshly deceased to the skeletonized to the exhumed body. Taking all of that with the education and experience of the Los Angeles Medical Examiner's Office, they're familiar with the interpretation of wounding in a body and seeing it at this decomposition level. So yes, of course it makes it harder. You have to really call on your knowledge base to interpret the wounds. The eyes being collapsed after death is normal. They lose their turgor. They don't, they're not the same shape. So not being able to see her eye color, that's a completely normal thing in a decomposition like this.
Her weight was 71 pounds. Is that...
Well, you lose a lot of weight also, in this sort of death decomposition process. So that's not reliable as to what her ante-mortem weight was.
I want to go to skin defects. Multiple skin defects are also present over the torso, with many perforating the skin and soft tissue without identifiable soft tissue hemorrhage or associated internal organ injuries. They range from 5/16 inch to 1/4 inches in greatest dimension. Multiple superficial linear abrasions are also noted on the right dorsal hand. The upper and lower extremities show full thickness dismemberment with relatively flat cut surfaces through the soft tissue and bone. No discernible hemorrhage is identified at these sites. Multiple fragments of blue plastic material are found embedded in the cut surfaces. Representative fragments are collected by medical examiner criminalists and submitted to the evidence department on September 8th, 2025. The right upper extremity is dismembered 9 inches from the top of the shoulder. The left upper extremity is dismembered 5 inches from the top of the shoulder. The left fourth and fifth fingers are amputated. The right lower extremity is dismembered in 2 places. One site is 12 inches from the top of the leg, and the other is 10 inches from the bottom of the heel. The left lower extremity is dismembered in 2 places. One site is 9 inches from the top of the leg, and the other is 15 inches from the bottom of the heel. It says the head is partially skeletonized with an absent left eye, and there is liquefaction of the soft tissues. What does this tell you about how she was dismembered?
It's important in dismemberment to look at the edges of the wounds. So any tool marks, any particular saw that might have been used to do this, the fact that there are these blue flecks give you some clue if you're able to then locate something that was used in the process. And just doing the careful tool mark analysis on the ends of the bones in all of the amputations, the fact that everything is together there there's the body bag and then there's the trash bag with the limbs in it. They weren't discarded in different places. So you have a lot of material to work on to try to figure out what was used to cut through the limbs.
What amount of effort or tools would be needed to do something like this? And based on the description, I hate to say this, is this someone you would suggest is sloppy, that has never done this before? Does it look disoriented in a way? Just trying to make sense of it.
It's interesting because many people, when they try to dismember a body, they'll try to go for the joint. Somehow they think that's a good place to go when that's a really complicated place to disarticulate a limb. And so the fact that they didn't go for the joint says something about their logic. They were making cuts, presumably to be able to confine her and fit her into a certain amount of space. And so they not only cut the legs in one place, they cut them in 2 places, to fit them in. Right. I think beyond that, you can just say someone's trying to hide the body. They are doing their best to compact the body to hide it, but they left it all there. So I can't really psychologically analyze that part.
How is an eye missing? Is that from decomposition?
Well, it's not really missing as much as it's all gone away. I believe there was mention also in the report of insect activity.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
They don't go into great detail about it or about how many generations of insects are there, but it's usually fly activity that we refer to. And adult flies lay eggs in moist places on the body, and then those eggs start to grow and become maggots, and then they keep getting bigger, and then they pupate into the next generation, et cetera, so forth. So they can do a lot of destruction because they're scavengers, if you will. So they will eat dead tissue, necrotic tissue, and just digest it and eat it, in there, and that's what they do. So many times they will go for the soft parts of the eye and other soft areas.
And does that tell you how long the body has been decomposing? And does it actually relate to a particular location? Is there specific insects that inhabit a certain location? Or you could say perhaps there's evidence of those insects being in a certain location.
Yeah, I think that, the entomologists that do this work specifically, the forensic folks, they collect the maggots, they look at them,
I think the majority of the pictures that I see of her, she has the saddest look on her face. And it's my understanding that David Burke, is the owner of the Tesla that she was in the front trunk. It was parked on the side of the road long enough to where it was noticed, and the police were coming by and putting chalk markers down to see if it had been moved. It was dusty. It hadn't, so they had it towed. It went to a tow yard and sat for God knows how long before the people at the tow yard was like, there's a horrific smell coming from this vehicle, which is what sparked how they found her and where they found her. Which is why this is just now coming out. So that's one that we're going to be covering, and obviously it's just the beginning of it. The other one is the little FedEx girl, along with, obviously, we'll stay in tune with Charlie Kirk. I believe her name was Athena. And that happened in Texas. He delivered a package to them a couple days prior and came back, and he snatched Athena out of the front yard and took her life in the FedEx truck that has cameras. I have his interrogation when they arrested him. I do believe he covered the cameras, and he pled guilty just last week or the week before, but they're going through the penalty phase right now. So it doesn't look like he was offered, plead and we'll take the death penalty off the table, because there's still a penalty phase. That's another yucky one. If anybody deserves it, he definitely does. But yeah, I encourage you, if you have TikTok or can, or I'm sure there's other resources you can go through to get a lot of this information, but he is really something. And the music and lyrics that he makes seems to be geared towards what he did. And foul. Definitely foul. I know that he originally pled not guilty, but I had been watching the news, and cases like this, they tend to. And, it is what it is. People like that deserve it. Kind of that. Tanner Horner. Tanner Horner, this is, if you can see down here. This little girl right there, Athena. So I have his interrogation, and obviously he pled, and then, like I said, he snatched her up from her yard. We'll get into that tomorrow. But Ray and I did put in for the autopsy report on Celeste. And I'm keeping up with all the court documents on all these cases, so we'll be able to go over all of them. And to get off that and onto an angry note, because that's sad and disgusting and repulsive, and I guess anger could be emotion. Rage comes to mind. But onto our president. So this is our president. Candace Owens. Candace Owens' stock, which was never very high, has fallen a long way. Her attack on the First Lady of France is despicable. I believe in this case, without verification, she is extremely low IQ individual. So, while everybody is suffering in the world because of the war that's going on, he's got time to get on social media and do dumb shit like this. Because, they don't like people that tell the truth. Here is more of his ridiculous rants. I just canceled the trip of my representatives go to Islamabad, Pakistan to meet with the Iranians. Too much time wasted on traveling, too much work. Besides which, this is a tremendous infighting and confusion within their leadership. Nobody knows who's in charge, including them. Also, we have all the cards. They have none. If they want to talk, all they have to do is call President Donald Trump. He's an idiot. I have ordered the United States Navy to shoot and kill any boat. Small boats, though maybe their naval ships are all, 159 of them, at the bottom of the sea. That is putting mines in the water of the Strait of Hormuz. There is to be no hesitation. Additionally, our minesweepers are clearing the strait right now. I am hereby ordering that the activity to continue, but at tripled up level. Thank you for your attention to this. President Donald Trump. Iran is having a very hard time figuring out who their leader is. They just don't know. The infighting is between the hardliners, who have been losing badly on the battlefield, and the moderates, who are not very moderate at all. The gaining respect is crazy. We have a total control over the Strait of Hormuz. Really. No ship can enter or leave without the approval of the United States Navy. It is sealed up tight until such time as Iran is able to make a deal. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald Trump. And then he goes on his little rant about news sources. If all of them aren't favoring him at any given time, then they are fake news or bad news, or for those people fewer in number now than ever before that are reading the failing New York Times or watching fake news CNN that think I am anxious to end the war, if you would even call it that, with Iran. Please be advised that I am possibly the least pressured person ever to be in this position. I have all the time in the world, but Iran doesn't. The clock is ticking. The reason some of the media is doing so poorly with subscribers and viewers is because they no longer have credibility. Iran's navy is lying at the bottom of the sea. Their air force is demolished. Their anti-aircraft and radar weaponry is gone. Their leaders are no longer with us. Blockade is airtight and strong. From there, it only gets worse. Time is not on their side. A deal will only be made when it's appropriate and good for the United States of America and, well, our allies, in fact, the rest of the world. President Donald Trump. So, in my opinion, as you can see here, they don't even know who their leaders are. No, pretty sure that's what Iran is thinking about the United States, because they know that it's real is running Donald Trump. Max. He has no control over what is going on. None. No control. He's on here saying the most ridiculous shit. It's all fake. It's lies. His threats mean nothing to them. They're coming back with making Lego videos about what a joke he is. What a joke I mean, they made him about Kash Patel, Erica Kirk, him, you name it. They are not in fear. And this is his response. And he acts like he's in full control, and he's not. He went to extreme, made a deal, and Israel went right behind him and shot that all to hell. Meanwhile, people are suffering. I know Europe is low on jet fuel and is canceling flights, and the whole world is suffering. And I think it's a good time to probably enact the 25th Amendment on this guy. Everybody needs to stand up and do what needs to be done to get him out of office. He's got to go. He has to go. He has to go. And if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it. This is just going to continue on until it's just complete destruction. He's an idiot. And that was another thing I got to do while I was in Arizona, was he came to the TPUSA event at the megachurch that also has sexual allegations against it, Dream City Church in Phoenix, where TPUSA held the event, and he was coming to speak, and there was hundreds of protesters against him and TPUSA and that mega church that has all the allegations. It's not just me saying it. Go look it up. We need more people out there doing this and taking a stand. In fact, here she is. She says the 25th Amendment.
The trade representative's office, under the leadership of Ambassador Greer, work on negotiating international trade agreements. 59 days after we stood in this office and President Trump, standing with Albert Bourla from Pfizer, announced the first of the 17 MFN deals, together with our colleagues from the Department of Commerce under Secretary Lutnick's leadership and from the U.S. Trade Representative's office under the leadership of Ambassador Greer, we negotiated a landmark agreement with the government of the United Kingdom in which they agreed to increase significantly the amount that they spend on branded pharmaceuticals for the first time in 26 years. That work continues with other countries. And third, we will continue our work with our partners in Congress to codify the principles that underpin these most favored nation deals, so that these savings for American families and this innovation that is unleashed at work on negotiating
Must not be getting much sleep, guys. Not getting no sleep.
Longer. What do you say to the American people who question how much longer this will take? Obviously, you know that they are having
You're such a disgrace. Did you hear what I just said? Vietnam. How many years was Vietnam?
I understand, sir. But
how many years was
your
Vietnam?
6-week deadline, so
well, I did my end. I took the country out militarily in the first 4 weeks. I took it out militarily. Now all we're doing is sitting back and seeing what deal. And if they don't want to make a deal, then I'll finish it up militarily with the other 25% of the targets. We've hit.
What do you say to the American people who question how much longer this will take? Obviously, you know that they are having
You're such a disgrace. Did you hear what I just said? Vietnam. How many years?
Who talks to somebody that way? That is asking legitimate questions and concerns about a war that you got us into for no reason whatsoever. You're a disgrace. No, sir. You're the disgrace. You are an ass. He has got to go.
2025, because as our attention has once again been drawn not just to Fort Huachuca, but to the inner workings of Fort Huachuca, we have learned that just after Charlie Kirk's assassination, there was a major command staff shakeup undoing major military mobilizations related to the southern border, supposedly, that had been put into motion just months prior. On March 14th, 2025, the United States Northern Command, the United States Combatant Command tasked with defending America's borders, they're obviously not doing a very good job of intentionally, they established Joint Task Force Southern Border, commonly known as JTF Southern Border. Now, JTF Southern Border is just the latest incarnation of a command that has existed around the southern border for over 3 decades. First, it was called JTF 6, then it was JTF North, and now JTF Southern Border. But the entire time, the 10th Mountain Division has been running the show. And whenever there's been a shakeup in name, a shakeup in optics, the division and the mission, all of the personnel, they have always stayed the same. But the shift to JTF Southern Border was different because this was a unit promotion. JTF Southern Border was given Command HQ status, which comes along with all kinds of different perks and incentives, massive funding increases, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars, new equipment, new buildings, new aircraft, new toys, new technology, expanded jurisdiction, increased prestige, even new unit flags. That was in March. And by October, the Army had essentially fired the entire 10th Mountain Division and gave the new command and everything that came along with that promotion to the 10th Mountain Division's longtime rival, the 101st Airborne. In fact, the official handoff took place on October 10th, 2025, exactly 1 month to the day after Charlie Kirk was assassinated in broad daylight in what has amounted to a botched operation. On the same day that the plane almost exclusively used by Pete Hegseth flew from Joint Base Andrews to Fort Huachuca, and then on the same day that that plane then took a detour and flew over the AES explosives production facility that blew up, killing everyone inside. And they were slapped with non-disclosure agreements in the process, kind of like the troops involved with the Venezuela operation. The Trump administration and the Hegseth Department of Defense, they love throwing around the non-disclosure agreements, and in this case, the NDAs were directed at members of a military unit that was promoted and then fired less than a year later. They don't just quietly replace the 36-year-long mission of an entire Army division without awards and presidential citations and commendations and parades and news articles. The only other reason why they would do something like this is to cover something up, to cover up criminality that could implicate the entire chain of command in the middle of crimes that have directly led to this country going to war with Iran, as pedophiles are let off the hook domestically. Crimes like the murder of Charlie Kirk. JTF Southern Border is based on Fort Huachuca, and they were replaced on October 10th, 2025, which is, again, not just 1 month after Charlie Kirk's murder, but the very same day that Accurate Energetic Systems exploded in McCowan. The very same day that government plane 99-0404, call sign Sam 112, flew overhead on its way back from Fort Huachuca on a special air mission with a VIP approved on board, approved only by the president or the vice president of the United States. 1 month and 2 days after, that very same plane under the call sign Sam 702 took its trip to Fort Huachuca on perhaps the most important day in that base's entire history. These things do not happen by mistake. The people and the places and the airplanes, they don't just line up over and over and over again, by coincidence.
What? Not coincidence. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them.
Not that it would even be a possibility in the first place. We're not talking about commercial jets here. We're talking about United States government aircraft personally authorized to fly under SAM call signs by, again, Nobody other than the president or the vice president of the United States. And only when they have a high-ranking government official or some sort of a high-level VIP on board. So who were they? Who the hell were they? And what were they doing? At this point, I think we know what they were doing. They were taking part in the planning and the ordering and the facilitating and the cover-up of the murder of Charlie Kirk. Now all we need are their names.
And I will also submit to you that the meeting in Bozeman, Montana was October 5, 6, 7. The 5th, 6th, and 7th. Can't make this up. They did not count on people tracking flights, and it just so happens that those flights to Bozeman, the flights to Fort Huachuca, the Fort Huachuca to McEwen, Tennessee, all surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the meeting in Bozeman, the AES plant exploding, killing 16 innocent people. At what cost? At what cost? And when do they start to realize they cannot run this game on us anymore? We don't buy it. We don't believe you. There is no such thing as this many coincidences. There's no such thing. And if our government is willing to just kill its own people and create wars to distract us, which is not working anymore, by the way. It's not working. And they see that it just pisses them off to the point where this dumbass has to get up there and post stupid and belittle people, and because nobody's buying what they're selling anymore. It's just not happening anymore. No more. So the question is where do we go from here? How do we fix this and get him out and hold these people accountable? Somebody's got to be held accountable. All these lives that are... What about the scientists? I mean, there's so many that I can't even remember a number. There's so many that are missing or dead or unalived or with some bullshit story of suicide, depression, or a drive-by. I mean, everybody needs to get a hold of Congress. Everybody needs to go out there. I think we all need to go to the White House and protest and get this ass out of there. He's destroying everything in this country. And all in the name of what? Israel? They can strike me or whatever. It's whatever. But yeah. And then you got Erica Kirk and her entire team that is constantly on X just bombarding everybody saying, look at what a massive turnout. Everything is a lie that comes out of their mouth. Her canceling the Georgia thing, saying because it was due to threats, you're with the vice president. For fuck's sake, you're with the vice president. Secret Service, you're safer there than anywhere. To find out that she was actually there the entire time. They show, oh, what a great turnout, and the Georgia chapter done, the Texas chapter done. These people are all sick of it. They're done. They're over it. You can't lie to us anymore. And quite frankly, the outcome that you had for the event that you canceled with the school in Arizona, they're probably not even real school kids that came to TPUSA. And I'll be damned, I wouldn't send my kid there. No way in hell. So they're losing. They refuse to acknowledge that. They refuse to even believe that it's a possibility that we were smart enough to put it together, or that we know who they are and what they're about. But we do. And it's just a constant war on social media of them trying to push their narrative and try to frame it in any way possible, whether it's through guilt or manipulation or, I mean, they've tried everything. It's not working. It just makes me wonder, like, at what point do you figure out, well, geez, I'm sick of going on here looking like a dumbass and saying all this dumb shit. Nobody believes it. I think it definitely is a positive look for Tyler Robinson's defense and them fighting for him. We just gotta hope and pray that he stays alive to be able to see it through. Them always constantly pushing a narrative that his family is the one that turned him in. They recognized the rifle. They recognized Tyler. That's all lies and it's all bullshit. They never anticipated for Tyler to get to trial. He was meant to be unalived. In my opinion, allegedly. I'm not suicidal. He was never meant to be alive right now. And it's creating all kinds of shit for them. So the best we can hope for is obviously his defense continues on the path that they're on, and even with the made up evidence, they don't have nothing. I mean, they're so dumb. They're not even going to be able to make the weapon fit. It's just not going to happen. They didn't count on anybody arguing or disputing. They didn't count on Tyler being here to have a defense. Oh. That is it, guys. That is all I got for today. I got so much stuff. So much. That I have been doing since I think I got home 2 nights ago. Been here for 2 nights and I've been spending every bit of it trying to catch up with what's happening, and there's so much happening. And I'm working on getting all of that together. And tomorrow we're going to go on to Athena, and we will continue to stay the course with Charlie Kirk. And I don't even know what to say about the scientists. But thankfully, Tyler Robinson has his defense team fighting for him, and it looks like Brian Cole Jr. has an amazing defense team that's fighting for him. Oh, he's going to end up pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. That's next. He's even made comments. He's going to see to it he pardons everybody. And I think that was just made in general because he was prefacing us for the fact that he is going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. It doesn't get any dirtier than that. I don't know, guys. Drop it in the comments if there's something that you want me to look into or to know further any more information about David Burke. I mean, it's just trickling in. Like I said, it's new. The FedEx guy. Ugh. There's just no words. There's no words. But this is our life today. Keep your kids close. Keep them out of public school. That's all I got, guys. That's all I got for today. And tomorrow we will start getting into some of them, the interrogation and all the other repulsive things that we got to talk about, because it's surely never good. If you could like and subscribe and hit the share, turn on notifications. Again, I'm still being buried in the YouTube algorithm. YouTube does not seem to be a fan of mine. Oh, and I'm posting over in Rumble. I went to Rumble too, so we're posting in all places just as backup. But please hit the like button, subscribe, share, turn on notifications, and we will be back tomorrow. Ray, what time do you think? Same time? 8:30 tomorrow. Let's do 8:30. Okay. All right. And until then, guys, I will see you tomorrow, and I hope everybody has a good Saturday night. Again, like, subscribe, share, turn on notifications. I'll see you again tomorrow. Same time. Good night, everybody.